Hey Josh, let's take a look at this week 2 assignment 2 drawing that you've got in here. It's a good solid job with both working with the value, working with the marker, and integrating the textures. I think your textures look very good overall, and I think that your use of the marker, barring like a few kind of areas, I feel like you're doing a good job using the marker. It feels very loose, it feels very fluid, it feels like you're not overworking any one area, which is terrific, and it just I feel like you've got a good it just seems like you're starting to get comfortable with them. There are though some areas where I think maybe it gets a little bit too loose and it starts to become a distraction. I'm not opposed to kind of fluid and semi-sketchy kind of drawings, but if there are areas that start to create distractions or take away from the main composition or confuse the main composition, then I think we run into some issues. And we do have that occurring in areas like along the edges of here and along the cone especially, where this kind of rainfall of the stroke and then stopping and cutting into the actual object and leaving white gaps all the way around it, I think starts to cause a little bit of an issue. And I think cutting your edge is really going to help, especially on the outside where you can go in here and around and back down. You know, cutting it on the outside as well as on the inside is going to help to minimize a little bit of these gaps that are occurring. And I almost feel like it also helps you when you're trying to hit these corners with a downward stroke, because you start to see where you're going to run into the cut and then you ease up a little bit earlier. It's almost like a psychological buffer there. But it occurs in both of these where I think the cuts can really help to kind of shore up some areas where we're seeing gaps or value changes that are occurring along, you know, the edges themselves. And there's a few areas where I, especially kind of like around here, where that background stuff that's occurring starts to impede on the actual object itself, and it really starts to break things down a little bit too much for me. But the shading feels good overall. You've got a nice consistent light source. You've got a good range of values from light to middles to the darks in each one of the objects, which is very good. A little bit of a cast shadow in place, which is good. And you're dealing with a ground plane, a horizon line in the background, which is very good. Texturally, I think they all work out well. I think the stone one may be the only one where I think you can try and randomize the mark a little bit more instead of having it be so kind of repetitive. The shading underneath looks very good though, and I think that being able to just kind of control it on the outside a little bit more, especially on this side, it's starting to look a little fuzzy because some of those marks are coming off of the surface. But the wood looks terrific, and the metallic ones look very, very good as well. I think that's it. I thought you did a good job with this. The placement of the objects, the initial drawing, the perspective, and the proportions feel very good. And like I said at the very beginning, I think your marker work in general feels pretty confident. And I think just keeping an eye on it so that it doesn't kind of get a little too loose. But otherwise, I think you're well on your way, and things are looking really good.